Is there such thing as a tune-up anymore? With modern daily drivers like this one, the tune-ups aren't the same as our carbureted vehicles of the past. Hang out with us today and we'll show you how to do a tune-up on your modern daily driver. But first, be sure to hit that like button and the notification bell so you can see all our latest videos. Now let's get this thing in the garage. The idea behind a tune-up is to keep your vehicle safe and running at maximum efficiency. This means paying attention to a wide range of vehicle systems, from your ignition system to your brakes. We're going to start under the hood by inspecting our ignition system and some of our fluids and belts. We're going to go over each component and tell you what to look for. Let's get into it. We're going to start off by inspecting some of our ignition components. We'll start with the spark plug wires. Just looking at the wires, what we're going to look for is dry rotting, cracking, see if they're rubbing anywhere, just the overall condition of the wires. These ones look to be in really good shape, so we're not going to replace them. Next, we'll pull a spark plug wire and check our spark plugs. So with our plug removed, we're just going to go ahead and visually inspect it. It's recommended that you replace your ignition components every 20 to 30,000 miles. Our spark plugs seem to be in great condition, so we're going to go ahead and reuse them and reinstall this one. We're going to go ahead and assume that the 3 other remaining plugs are in the same great condition. Now that we've inspected the plugs and wires, we're going to move on to inspecting some hoses under the hood. We're going to start with the coolant hoses. And we're looking for any dry rotting, cracking, swelling, anything that makes you think these hoses are breaking down. And you're just going to kind of visually inspect and feel. Ours still feel pretty good and rubbery, and I don't see any cracks, so we're not going to replace these and we'll keep running them. We're going to move on to our belt inspection. They're kind of tucked down in there, so we need some more light. We're going to use our Milwaukee M12 underhood light. So we're just going to go ahead and visually inspect our belts, looking for any weird rub marks, cracking, or anything out of the ordinary. Ours seem to be in good condition, so we're not going to replace them. One thing worth noting, on this particular automobile, it has a timing belt, which is located under this cover. It's recommended that you replace your timing belt every 90,000 miles or 10 years. This car is coming up on 100,000, so if it hasn't had one done already, it's time to replace it. Moving on from our belt and hose inspection, our tune-up also includes a check of all the essential vehicle fluids: oil, brake, transmission, and power steering. Starting with the engine oil, we're going to look at the condition and level of the oil and change it as necessary. The rule of thumb is, with conventional, you change it every 3,000 miles or 3 months, and with synthetic, every 6 months or 6,000 miles. And if you're changing the oil, it's a good idea to replace your oil filter as well. Now we're going to go ahead and check the oil. Wipe your dipstick off, reinsert it, and pull it to check the level. Now our car isn't low on oil, but the oil does look a little dirty. So not knowing the maintenance history, I recommend that you change it. Also, when changing your oil, make sure to change your oil filter as well. So now that we've checked the oil, we're going to move on to the air filter. Now this one is pretty dirty and needs replaced, so we're going to go ahead and get one on order. Speaking of air filters, we're also going to want to check and replace our cabin air filter. This vehicle isn't equipped with one, but a lot of modern vehicles are. We're going to move on to checking our brake, power steering, and transmission fluid next. Now we're going to check the transmission fluid. We have to do this while the car is running to get an accurate reading. So we're gonna wipe that off. So our fluid looks to be a little bit low, so we're gonna add some. Also note the color. This looks like it's less pink and more brown, so it's probably time for a transmission flush. Next, we're gonna check the power steering fluid. Now, this doesn't have a dipstick, but looking inside the bottle, the fluid level appears to be good. Moving on from the power steering fluid, we're gonna move to the brake fluid. Now, this has a level indicator on the side of the bottle, which appears to be good, but we're gonna visually inspect the fluid as well. The fluid looks good in color. Worn out brake fluid will appear brown, have a foul smell, or get a yellow tinge to it. This seems clear and still good, so we're just gonna leave this alone. Our last fluid to check is coolant. You're gonna wanna make sure to let your car cool down before checking it because the radiator's under pressure. Go ahead and remove the cap. Our coolant level and color looks good, so we're gonna use this hydrometer to check our glycol level in the coolant. The higher the glycol content, the lower the freezing temperature is, and it's important in cold weather climates that your coolant goes below 0. An important thing to note is that your brake fluid, coolant, power steering fluid, and transmission fluid all have really long service intervals. So it's not like changing your oil where you're gonna change it every 3,000 miles. It's important that at the end of these intervals that you either change it yourself and have it flushed or take it to a shop and have it professionally done. Now that our underhood inspection's done, we're gonna move on to our tires. We're gonna check for two things here. We're gonna check for the overall condition of the tire and our tire pressure. So looking at our tire, this tire looks in good condition. There's no dry cracking, rotting, any kind of bubbles poking out of the side. But we did notice by the wear pattern that the tire does look a little overinflated. So we're gonna check what the tire is inflated to. You're gonna find your recommended tire pressure on the inside of the driver's side door. There'll be a small sticker with a recommended pressure. So this tire is at 33 pounds. The manufacturer recommended PSI is 30. So we're gonna drop it 3 pounds. We're at 30 and good to go. Now that we've checked and adjusted the pressure in this one, you're gonna wanna do your other 3 as well. Last but not least, it's time for a wiper blade inspection. So what we're looking for here is to make sure the wiper is still attached, in good condition, has no rolling or tears. This one looks to be really nice, so it might be a while before they need replaced. So the tune-up is not dead. The approach is just a little bit different, but the results are the same. To keep your vehicle the most efficient it can be and safely going down the road. I'm Justin with Summit Racing. Thanks for watching.